If you're in dilemmas for who to transfer in the upcoming game weeks, this video is a must watch. Hello everyone, my name is Akshay and welcome back to a brand new FPL video. In this video, I've got a new type of concept, a new transfer tips type of concept to present to you guys. It basically showcases the teams and the players that I've been getting asked about the most, rather than just showing the general highest predicted points players for each different position, as I normally do in the normal transfer tips video. This should be a lot more in-depth than that style of video and should help you guys compare different players from different teams that you might be having dilemmas about on who to transfer in. Please comment down below if you like the way that this video is presented, and if you do enjoy the video, please do leave it a like. It helps push the video out so more people can see it. But just before we get started, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before March, so please help by subscribing to the channel. So starting with the first screen, I'm going to be comparing the different Arsenal attackers. As like I said at the start, I'm getting a lot of questions based on who to pick out of the Arsenal attack. So hopefully this head-to-head format helps you decide on who to pick out of the Arsenal players. So starting off with their fixtures, Double Gameweek 25 has been announced. So now they've got, in Game Week 23, they've got Brentford and Man City, 24 Aston Villa, Double Game Week 25 Leicester and Everton, 26 Bournemouth and 27 Fulham. So they are some absolutely lovely fixtures there. So I understand why the Arsenal attackers are a bit of a dilemma on who to pick and who to transfer out. Some people are even replacing certain Arsenal midfielders for other Arsenal midfielders. So yeah, let's get into it. It's based on left to right with the highest expected points. So at the moment, Martinelli is on the lowest expected points out of the bunch with 33.3 in the next 5 games. His expected points for this double game week are 8.3. Moving up the list to Saka, so he's got a much higher XG. He's actually the second highest XG out of the Arsenal team with 0.6, with an expected points of 9.5, and then over the next 5, 39, which is very high. Of course, it's because of the double game weeks. However, one thing to remember is Saka is on penalties and he takes most of the corners. Arsenal haven't had a penalty for a while, so if they obviously do manage to get a penalty, then he's going to be getting the points for them. And then second for highest expected points out of the Arsenal boys is Odegaard, 40.6 over the next 5, which is very nice. And then 10 for this week, which is the joint highest out of any of the midfielders with Kevin De Bruyne. He's by far clear for expected assists with 0.86 out of the Arsenal attackers. And then of course Enquiries, who's by far obviously the highest predicted XG with 1.03 out of the players. But he also has the highest expected points out of any of the Arsenal players over the next 5 games with 42.2, and obviously the highest expected for this week as well with the double game week. So now, who do we pick out of these 4? In my opinion, I would pick Odegaard and Enquiries and then go for an Arsenal defender for budgeting reasons. But if you've got loads of money in the bank, then you probably could consider going for Saka and Enquiries and then picking a Arsenal defender. Or you could go super attacking with Saka, Odegaard and Enquiries. I personally wouldn't consider Martinelli. He's blanked for 4 games in a row now and he probably will start firing again soon. But just that Trossard signing has been a bit of a pain for Martinelli owners because he is likely to get hooked most of the time now in around 60, 70th minute. So you're not going to get 90 minutes from him all the time at the moment. So if we ignore him, definitely Saka, Odegaard and Enquiries. At this point of the season, I think it's absolutely vital to have triple Arsenal. So you can either go, like I said before, one of the midfielders out of Saka and Odegaard, Enquiries, and then one of the defenders, so one from each position, or you go triple attack out of the attacking players, which is 2 midfielders, Saka and Odegaard, and then Enquiries. I personally, if you want my opinion, I'm going to go for Odegaard, Enquiries, and then probably Zinchenko, so I'll go 1 from each position, just to be a bit safe across the board. Now moving on to the Arsenal defence, we have Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, and Zinchenko, of course, the main 4 starters. Ben White has the least expected points out of all of the defenders in the next 5 with 28.6, and this week 7.4, but honestly, it is such fine margins with the Arsenal defence. It's pretty much pointless looking at the next 5 predicted points because Ben White's got 28.6, as I said, Gabriel's also got 28.6, and then Saliba's 29.2, and then Zinchenko is 29.3. So there's pretty much 0.67 points difference in there. So literally don't look too closely into the expected points over the next 5. What you do want to look at, however, with the Arsenal defence is the ownership across the different players of FPL, because that's more important. That's what's going to get you the higher ranks, and that's what's going to get you the edge if people around you don't have a certain player and you do and they score well. So that's the really important thing to consider here. I'm going to go through the ownership for all of these players in the top 100k, okay? So I know probably most of you watching this video are going to be ranked lower than 100k, but it's just a nice ballpark figure to show you what the top 100k are doing. The highest ownership is Ben White with 37% owned in the top 100k, then Saliba on 30% owned, and then it's a massive drop. Gabriel only 11% owned, and Zinchenko Zinchenko only 3% owned. Of course, Ben White is only 4.7 mil, which is very, very good value. However, he's also been subbed a lot in the recent games. He seems to be tiring very early recently as well, so it might be a tiny bit of a risk keeping him in because he might, unfortunately, get subbed before 60 minutes in some of the upcoming games. Surprisingly, Saliba nicks it with a little bit higher of attacking threat than Gabriel, with an expected goals of 0.15 rather than Gabriel's 0.12. But like I said, extremely fine margins, don't look too much into it. The only thing I would consider here is, like I said, Gabriel is 11% owned in the top 100k and Saliba is 30% owned. So you could, if Gabriel somehow manages to grab a goal or bonus points or something like that, you could gain the ranks on the people that are close to you because Saliba's ownership is much, much higher than Gabriel's. However, one thing to point out with these two centre-backs is Saliba is more of a bonus points magnet than Gabriel is. No Arsenal defender has got more bonus points than Saliba across the whole season. And over the last 5 games, no Arsenal defender has registered a highest actual bonus point score on the scoring system than Saliba as well. So he's the most likely out of the bunch to get bonus points. And then we have Zinchenko, who's, like I said, only 3% owned. He's 5.1 mil, so he's cheaper than the two centre-backs and has the highest expected points on this double game week and across the next 5 games. But like I said, fine margins, don't look too much into it. The only thing with Zinchenko I would say is most of the time he is playing in a centre mid position. He's much, much more advanced than any of the Arsenal defenders, and half the time he's more advanced than Arsenal's 2 centre mids in Xhaka and Partey as well. So my gut feeling at the moment is I think Zinchenko is going to start to rack up a lot more points because I think he's going to have a much higher goal involvement and he may even get the odd assist or two. And with the 3% ownership, I think that could be such a huge differential to go for. Now moving on to the Man City attack and which players here to transfer in. I keep getting questions on, actually, should I transfer in Mahrez or KDB, or transfer out KDB and put Grealish in? So many different things that can go on here. I'm not really going to talk about Haaland. He is part of the Man City attack, which is why I've had to include him in here. But everyone and their dog and their cat and their cat's babies have Haaland in their team. So yeah, I'm not even going to talk about him. So Grealish, De Bruyne and Mahrez. Over the next 5 games, Mahrez actually has a higher expected points than De Bruyne, which was surprising to me when I saw that. It's only by 0.1, but it's still higher at the end of the day. But I want to start with Grealish. I'll quickly go through their ownership in the top 100k. So Grealish has an ownership of 0.35 out of the top 100k. And then Mahrez has got 17% and De Bruyne has got 40%. So Grealish could be probably the differential of the year if he manages to do well in the upcoming games, because basically no one's got him in their team. And if I'm honest, I've been really impressed with Grealish when I've watched him play recently. He's been really attacking, a lot more direct, and he's doing less of the holding onto the ball forever. He still is taking a bit too long on the ball sometimes, but he's doing less of it, and I think he's starting to finally come into his role in the Man City side. Even though he hasn't scored that big recently, he's had a few assists and he's actually missed quite a few decent chances inside the box. So he is, voice break, he is somebody to really, really consider. And for 6.8 mil, out of the Man City midfielders, pretty much guaranteed to start at the moment. We'll see what happens when Foden's fully 100% back. Yeah, I think it could be a really, really good option, a good punt to have. So now moving on to De Bruyne and Mahrez, a huge price difference here. One thing to point out straight away, which is 4.7 mil price difference. They both have the same expected points for this game week. And then, like I said, Mahrez just nicks it across the next 5 games. Mahrez has a much higher XG than De Bruyne on 0.67. But of course, De Bruyne has a much higher expected assist on 0.84. However, De Bruyne didn't start the last game, and he tends not to start against 3 at the back side. So I think he will start both of the games this double game week, because Aston Villa don't play 3 at the back, they play 4 at the back, and Arsenal play 4 at the back. So I think you're pretty much safe, and you don't have to worry about De Bruyne not playing in the double game week fixtures. But to predict what Guardiola does at this point, I pretty much feel like I have a higher chance of winning the lottery. So yeah, I'm personally going to take the risk and not put KDB back in my team this week, as I was thinking that when I did make the Bruno swap. So I'm sticking with Mahrez, I'm backing him. I feel like for the predicted points over the next few games, his value is far clearer than KDB's. So for the questions that I've been getting asked about what to do with the City attackers, I would either double up on the City attack, so go with Haaland, Mahrez and De Bruyne if you can fit them all in, or I would go with, same concept as the Arsenal team, 1 defender, 1 midfielder and 1 attacker. So either Haaland, Mahrez or one of the defenders, or Haaland, De Bruyne and one of the defenders. And if you've got huge cojones, you could go with Grealish as an extremely risky differential pick. So now moving on to the City defence, and the City defence is really surprising with the ownership in the top 100k. So I'll quickly go through that before I begin. Walker has an ownership of 2.8%. Lewis has an ownership of 4.6%. Akanji 5.4%. and Ake 7.3% ownership in the top 100k, okay? And the really funny thing is, Cancelo is still the highest owned Man City defender in the top 100k. Obviously, probably because people haven't had the chance to get him out yet and he's just sitting on everyone's bench, but it's just funny to see that. But I do worry about the City defense. So they've got Aston Villa, Arsenal in this game week, then they've got Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Newcastle and Crystal Palace. So over the next 5 game weeks, they play 6 times, but 4 of those games are away. And I know City is City and they can batter any team, but they've been really shaky recently and I just don't trust them as much, and I don't trust their defense as much. I've got Akanji in my team. If I could, I would get rid of him, but I can't and I don't want to take the hit for it. So I'm just keeping him in my team for now because they have a double game week and on paper, good fixtures. So out of the defenders, Walker I would ignore. I'm not even going to talk about him. I don't think you should put him in your team. And then you've got Rico Lewis, Akanji and Ake. Rico Lewis is absolutely unbelievable value at 3.9 mil. It's just if he starts most of the games, and that's always the risk. He has been playing a lot more recently. He did play a full 90 minutes in the last game, and he's not too far off Akanji and Ake for expected points over the next 5 games on 22.1. And then you've got Akanji and Ake who are very similar. The only thing with the Man City defense is they don't really get too many bonus points. Well, the defenders on screen now don't really get too many bonus points. So that's my worry. So you could consider going to Edison if you really wanted to, as he may get obviously save points and may nick a few bonus points, and Edison's got an assist in him, doesn't he? So just to summarise the questions I've been asked for Double Game Week 23 and what to do with their players because of the triple up, I would, if you can, go De Bruyne and Mahrez and then Haaland, because I don't see them keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal away, if I'm honest. So depending on your budget, you could go extremely attacking with Mahrez and De Bruyne and then Haaland, or if you can't afford that route, then you could go one in each position. So I would personally go for Akanji and then De Bruyne or Mahrez, and then of course Haaland. But that's pretty much a wrap for this video. Please do let me know in the comments if you did enjoy this style of video where I break down the different players from different teams based on the most questions I've been getting asked throughout the week. Hopefully it helps you solve your dilemmas a little bit easier rather than just seeing a whole load of data on the screen for a whole load of random players. But if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like. Honestly, it helps push out the video so much. And also my birthday is coming up in a few days time, so please do subscribe. It will be the best birthday present. But other than that, I will see you tomorrow for my team selection video.